Welcome to Homeschooling on a Budget, and this is part 2. I'm going to be talking about using the outdoors in your homeschooling for inexpensive ways to do that. And so the 5 main ideas I have today are hikes, gardening and projects, one small square. This is kind of related to the gardening projects. It's a series of books that I think is especially fun for elementary school aged kids to bring science into homeschooling. Outdoor art installations, and free outdoor theater and concerts. So the first one is, a lot of times when we think about hikes, we think about just exercise, and physical education is certainly one part of it, and that's part of your education. But hikes can actually be so much more than that, and hikes can be really educational. First of all, if you're just wondering about where to hike with kids and you want to take them on hikes that are appropriate for their age and their hiking abilities, there's a whole series of books called Best Hikes with Kids that covers all different areas all over the country. And so you can get one for your area. And that was kind of our Bible when our kids were little. When we first started hiking with them, and we had like a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, we wanted to know what hikes would be appropriate to take them on that wouldn't be too hard and would be fun for all of us. And I really appreciated that. And we've ended up doing so many hikes in that book over the years, the one for our area in Western Washington. And then another thing that we do is we like to get field guides, and we take them along on our hikes with us. And there are field guides to so many different things. I mean, I'm sure most of you are familiar with bird guides, but we've had guides to plants. You can get guides to mushrooms, to insects in the area, to the animals. And those have been really fun. And you can go with bigger ones or smaller ones. We've gotten little ones that fold up before that are specific to an area like Mount Rainier, or whole books. And my kids have really enjoyed being able to look for and identify things on the hikes that we've done. And a lot of times this is 2 down, but I think hiking slow can be a really good way to do it if you're looking for hikes as an educational thing more than just for exercise. Because when you stop and you take a look at the plants and the insects and just everything around you, it can take a lot longer, but you can look them up in the book and it can really be quite an education. And my husband is actually really good at identifying native plants. And so over the years, as we've gone on hikes, it seems like almost every plant we walk past, he's like, okay, and kids, which plant is this? And he identifies the different kinds of fern, whether it's sword fern or licorice fern, and has them look at them and identify them. And so that's been a good way for them to just learn a lot more about our natural environment. There's also a series of books called Roadside Geology that, again, like the Best Hikes with Kids, goes to the geology of all different parts of the country. And that's a really good resource too, wherever you're going hiking, or even if you're going on a road trip with a family. If you own that book, you can look and learn about the geology of your area and learn more about geology. And then I also wanted to talk about bird watching a little bit, just because specifically for me, this has been really fun, that there's a nature refuge near us that had Audubon bird walks on Wednesday mornings, and just anyone could attend, and it wasn't a formal thing, there weren't guides. But one thing I noticed is that birders love to share, and they love to share with kids and show them birds, and they would show us, little hummingbird nests that they had their scope on, or different things. And again, that's an opportunity for the kids to be involved in the community, to meet other people. And people actually really love to share their knowledge with children and love to see the enthusiasm. And so that's been a really fun thing that we've done, and it has been no cost to us. The next area is just gardening and projects. And gardening can be an entire science curriculum for elementary school age kids, and they can learn so much about the natural world and the way it works just by gardening. And gardening doesn't have to be expensive if you start with just seeds. And I know when my kids were little and I started gardening, I was amazed at how much, how you can just get lettuce or, different herbs actually just by planting the seeds. And it can be a good education for them. And then I also think that household projects can be a great way to integrate different subjects and for educational opportunities. And I think this especially applies more to older kids. And sometimes I know there's the age-old question that people ask of where would you ever use algebra or math in real life? And home projects, I think, are a really great way for children to be able to see that. And they don't even have to be complicated projects. I just remember when we've got bark or gravel to spread in our yard and having my son do the calculations to figure out how much square footage we needed to cover and how that translates to cubic yards, so how much we should buy. And I really like to, I've done that a lot with one of my sons because he likes this kind of thing too, where I give him a project and he does all the research and calculates things and then does the project. And we usually help him, of course, too, but it's been a really great way for him to see how other things he's learned translate into the real world and can make a difference in his life. So then I mentioned the One Small Square series of books earlier, and these are pictures of them. And what it actually takes, the three I show are backyard, pond, and woods, because those are all things that I can actually take my kids to practically within walking distance of my house. Of course, obviously backyard. And what the books do is they actually show how, in a little square as it shows there, it shows how much life is in there. And it'll show different views, like from above ground and then below ground, and show what plants and animals and what they look like at every different level of that area, and zoom in and then show like what's microscopic in that area. And so it's a really great way to look at the book and then actually look in your actual yard and see what you can find, or at a pond that's nearby your house. And so I really think those are fun, and they're, you know, an inexpensive book, like $10 to $15, and you can actually do a curriculum for a while that goes around that concept. Another thing that's great is for doing art appreciation, outdoor art installations. This is a picture of the Chihuly Bridge of Glass in Tacoma. But just taking them to outdoor art installations is a great way to appreciate art. And I know several times when I've gone to art museums, my children have actually enjoyed walking around outside looking at the different sculptures and outdoor art, in some ways more than the inside of the museum, and it's prompted really good conversations about art. And sometimes there's community art as well, other than like a formal sculpture garden. I know earlier this year, Tacoma had a big outdoor art exhibit that you could either do a walking or a driving tour around, and they had music and things you could listen to at the different things you looked at, different sculptures that different people had set up. And that was a really fun activity around the holidays and just a way to learn more about art. And then the last one is outdoor theater and concerts, and most communities have these in the summertime. This particular one's a picture of Shakespeare in the Park, which my family's done a lot. And I like to kind of do some curriculum prep, you know, in advance of going to something like that. So if we're going to a play, maybe we'll read the play in advance, or a concert, get familiar with the music. And that's a way to expand the learning that happens by going to the event. But then the entire thing can end up being no cost and be educational. So that's the conclusion of the second part of homeschooling on a budget.